Are you ready for the network podcast? Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to Networked, where we bring you real talk to inspire, invest, and empower right here in North Central Washington. I'm your host, David Mabee, the marketing director here at NCW Tech Alliance. Today, we're excited to introduce you to one of the region's newest and youngest entrepreneurs, Cindy Gonzalez, who was only 18 years old when she founded the Bloom Flowery in East Wenatchee. What started for a love for flowers in a high school classroom turned into a garage-based business and is now a full storefront. All before most people finish their first year of college. Cindy's story is packed with courage, creativity, and a deep appreciation for her community. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to bet on yourself and chase your dreams early, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Network Podcast. I want to introduce you to Cindy Gonzalez. Cindy, how you doing today?
Good. Honored to be on the podcast and excited to bring my story to everybody listening.
Yeah, the crowd. I don't know if you heard them in the background. The crowd is excited to have you here.
Oh, yeah.
So we're stoked to have you here. Cindy, I just want to get started here. Take us back to the beginning. How did the high school flower design class spark this whole journey for you?
So I started off taking floral design my junior year in high school. It was just kind of like an elective to take, kind of just for fun. And down the road, I kind of discovered that I really liked and enjoyed working with flowers. I mean, I always liked having flowers in my room and just around the house and stuff. So I think that part of me was always there. But floral design just kind of helped, I guess, in a way to discover what I really liked. And then it wasn't until my junior year, later on, the second quarter of the year, that I took a financial literacy class, and the teacher's name was Mr. Bloom. I also had a teacher or a friend in that classroom, and her name was Diana, and we were really good friends at the time. She was dating my boyfriend at the time's best friend. So it was all four of us were kind of connected in some way. But her boyfriend and her were really lovey-dovey, and he'd always get her flowers, and I would never really get flowers. So Mr. Bloom would hear us talk about all of I guess our love stuff going on, and the class was super quiet. But he was we sat right next to his desk. Always kind of told him. Oh, and I forgot to mention the teacher's name of that class was Mr. Bloom, and he's been teaching there for quite some time. Anyway, we would always go in there and tell him about our stuff. And then it got until, I think it was around the fall time, that I was you know what, Mr. Bloom, I'm tired of not getting flowers. I'm going to do something about it. And as a joke, I was I'm going to start a flower business to make myself happy and then make other people happy. And he's like, okay, Cindy, you do that. And so I was no, I think he didn't really believe me. He was just thinking I was, I don't know, saying something random. And I was no, I am, and I'm going to name it after you. So originally it was the Flowery Bloom, but then that didn't really make sense. So I was I think we're going to name it the Bloom Flowery. And then that's where I guess I kind of named it after him. And
that's awesome.
He didn't believe me. And, he was just okay, whatever. Because we'd always talk all this nonsense. He was okay.
Right.
Sure,
so did he sign over his naming rights, or is he going to come after you later for the name of this?
He might come after me.
You guys are on a pretty good terms, I bet. Does he still give you advice on the business and everything that's going on? Are you still keep in contact?
Yeah, don't see him too often. I saw him for Valentine's Day, and he stopped in the store, and he's oh, I'm grabbing a last minute gift for my wife. She loves anything that has her last name Bloom. And I was well, you came to the perfect spot, because we had a bunch of stuff that had Bloom all over it. So, yeah, we kind of still keep in connection, communication and stuff. He's just a simple, I don't know, he's a calm guy, and he's just he used to work in building houses and stuff and all that. And now he's just a teacher. He lives in Leavenworth. So he drives to Eastmont High School every single day.
That's
he's committed. But he's a really cool guy. And this happened, like I said, back in the fall time. And then we fast forward to the winter time of 2023. And then that year, I decided that I was going to fully launch it. I made the Instagram account that fall time when I told Mr. Bloom about it and when I came up with the name. So that's when the account was originally created, but it just kind of sat there all fall until the winter time. I was okay, Valentine's Day is coming up. If I'm going to do something right now is going to be the right time to take it on. So I went to Costco, picked up some flowers and did some samples, posted it on Instagram, said I was taking Valentine's Day orders. And that's kind of like how it began and how it started off.
Oh, cool. So how old are you? Were you a senior when this happened? Is this like towards the end of your senior year?
It was in the beginning of my well, I guess real end of my junior year. So I still wasn't a senior yet. End of my junior year. And it wasn't until my senior year where it all kind of just like took off and like.
So talk about that. What were some of your early like bouquets or projects that made you think like I could maybe make this a business?
I think it wasn't until, and I think I got my years messed up. I thought about this in 2021 and then it wasn't until 2022 where I like finally formalized it, because 2023 was my senior year, the year that I graduated. And like I said, that was the year that it took off and where like I realized that that it had a potential, and it wasn't just like, oh, you have to do weddings and like all these different types of floral. Could be like an everyday, business that I could do. I was going to school, and almost every day or every other day I would have at least one order of either a birthday bouquet or just because flowers. So that is where like I feel like I got the thought of like, okay, like everybody has a birthday. There's a lot of people that love flowers, and this could potentially be like something that could grow into something bigger if I like took it further.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you're starting doing this, like what's your learning? How are you learning how to do this? Are you self-taught? The teachers helping you? I mean, kind of what was that trial and error method you were going through?
I think a really big like learning school was TikTok and YouTube. Those were like my two that like taught me a lot of what I know, and then following a lot of people that were kind of doing the same thing, florists that had experience in doing things. And my floral design teacher, I think we kind of like bumped heads throughout the road. We like liked each other, but didn't really like each other. So I learned a few basic things from her. I'm not going to say I didn't learn anything, because I did learn a few things here and there. But I think most of it was through social media. Like I said, TikTok, whatever was kind of like trending, trying to learn what people wanted to see and what they wanted. I think something that kind of made me different from other florists in town or people that worked with flowers was that I was kind of doing more of the stuff that was trending around. Like we started this really big money bouquet where we'd fold dollar bill flowers. So that's like something that you don't typically see, I guess, at like Safeway or another flower shop around town. So it was definitely like knowing what was trending and learning how to bring that to Wenatchee.
That's cool. And you started the Bloom Flowery in your garage, in your family's garage. What was that experience like, and how did your parents respond?
So my dad owns this limo. He rents a limo and a party bus. So our garage was originally like it was extended to fit a limo pretty much. And then there was like a little gap at the very back of the garage. And in like 2020, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a home gym. And that lasted for like 2-3 years until I decided that I wanted like a bigger place to work with flowers other than the kitchen. And that's where I sold all the gym equipment, and then just kind of had some foldable tables out there, a bunch of Lowe's buckets that were there. Mm-hmm. And they were really welcoming, really open. I mean, it was kind of technically already my side of the house because it was like a gym before.
Right.
So they were like, yeah, sure, do whatever you want with it. And kind of extended more as time went by, and outgrew it pretty quick.
So by the time, how did you realize like, now I need to move into a storefront? I've outgrown the gym flower workshop. How did that transpire? And who helped you with that, with the contracting part and all that? I mean, it seems like a pretty big step for a young person.
Yeah, that was a lot. So towards the end of like my senior year, I was set to go down to Grand Canyon University. I had gone before during like the springtime, toured it. I had a scholarship down there. I had my schedule. I had my dorm. I had my roommates. I had a plane ticket to fly down there with all my stuff. Like everything was set. And then last minute, I decided to have like a really tough conversation with my parents and be like, you know what? Like, I don't think school is something that I want to do. I think I want to stay and take this further. My dad is the type of guy to never get my mom flowers. So he was like, who is going to buy flowers? And you're like, come on. And my mom was like, well, do whatever makes you happy. Like, if that makes you happy, then we'll support you and be here for you.
Right.
So I knew if I was going to stay, I could function from the garage. But if I was going to stay, I needed to make like a bigger step in transitioning into like at least a place that I could rent out. And that was one of their conditions that they kind of said was like, okay, if you're going to stay and you want to continue this, you have to like actually take it the next step, which required like getting a business license, getting permits, leasing a spot and all of that. And that was a lot because I had no experience. I mean, I was just out of high school. YouTube and TikTok were my friends again. So
YouTube
then
University is amazing.
Yeah, it is. You can learn a lot there.
For sure.
So then I kept in contact with this teacher that I had in 7th grade. She has a really good social life. So she knows a lot of people. And she connected me with this one person that she knew that they were looking for people to sublease the building that they were leasing. And this location was down on Columbia Street. It was like a warehouse style, but it was divided into a few rooms. And the room that we were offered and I guess looked at was a 600 square feet room, which was a little bigger than the garage that in my parents' garage that I was in. But it allowed me to at least have like a physical location where I could go versus just having people show up to my house and having it, I guess, be more real, more proper. So that's kind of
professional I understand what you're saying. You're not coming over to my garage. You've actually invested in the storefront.
Yeah.
Things change, right? Now there's real money on the line that you have to pay every month.
Yeah. I think one of the things also that made me like want to, and that I kept going back to was for Mother's Day that year of my senior year, I took orders and I did orders and stuff. But that day I had said that I was going to have like extra bouquets for the people that didn't get to order before the cutoff date. And I was going to open my back fence with all my extra arrangements at 8 a.m. And I had a line already at like 7:50, 7:55. And
Dad must have
in
been
like 30
stoked.
minutes. Oh, yeah. 30 minutes, everything was gone. It seemed like we were having a yard sale in front of our house because our neighborhood was like with all the cars just lined up, everybody walking out with their flowers. So I think I was like, okay, like if I'm going to be selling flowers, I don't want a whole line of cars to show up at my house and, intimidate the neighbors or have some issues going on. So that's where I was like, okay, I think it's time to like take the step further.
Seems a little safer too. I mean, you don't want a bunch of randos knowing where you live. I mean, just the world's a little crazy. So Good on you. That's a good call. So this all sounds incredibly stressful as you're young. What were some of the biggest challenges leading up to your grand opening at your new spot?
So our first spot that we were in, like I said, I was just straight out of high school. I didn't really know how to do half of the things that I did. I needed to make sure that I was applying for the right business license, doing like all these little things. I had connections with some people that had and owned businesses. So I reached out to them, kind of got their insight on like what to do, how to do the steps, how to apply, who to call, what to do, and all this. It was really stressful, but I think the part that was the most stressful of it all was making sure that with like this big step and like committing into subleasing this location that I was going to be able to pay rent every month to month and stuff. At this time, I had already quit my part-time job that I had in high school. And it was the only job that I worked before like owning my business and doing this. And I think with that, I learned a lot of like simply knowing how to count a till and how to do like the basic stuff that you would in a work environment. So just reaching out to people that I knew and then knowing the rights and wrongs of how to properly do things.
Right. I was just wondering, what did it feel like when you finally unlocked the door for the first time and you're like, this is your business now and holy crap, I'm open?
It was really surreal. It didn't feel real in the moment. Our grand opening was, or I guess our soft opening that we did, the day before we were still in there kind of painting and getting things together and doing the whole room, remaking it to fit our whole vibe. But the day that I actually this was on a Friday. So I went back on a Saturday, opened it up, and it just, I don't know, it didn't feel real. It felt like a dream. And I was like, okay, like this is real. And
That's so
I think I
awesome.
was more scared than like
I mean,
happy.
obviously, because, you know, there's so much unknown, but I mean, it's got to be like exhilarating, partially scary. I've started a few side hustles, but nothing like that where I had like a door. I do DJ and things like that. So it's like, there was never a door, but it was like, got my first client. I was like, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. I have a business license, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I want to get into this. You talked about your decision. You were going to pursue business instead of, you chose to pursue business instead of heading off to Grand Canyon University, and your parents accepted it. What made you think, I mean, you said it was kind of last minute, but like, you must have been stewing on this. And what made you finally decide to bring it up to your parents and be like, hey, I'm going to give this a go?
I think it was like talking to people that were around me and before like actually going to my parents and just being like, like, hey, what do you think about this? And like, what do you think if I stay and I do this? And it wasn't like people my age, it was older people, and getting advice from like I said, older people. And most, I think I want to say like a good 95% of them were like, I think you should just stay and do it. I think they gave me that reassurance that I was needing before actually bringing this conversation up.
Yeah.
And I was going to go to school for business entrepreneurship, which was kind of silly because I was already kind of doing that. So I was like, okay, I'm like signed up for that. And I already I don't have like the whole format of how to properly do things, but I learned along the way.
Yeah. And I think what's different is you started doing it and you knew what you wanted to do. Whereas most people go to college kind of with a thought of what they want to do, and then they try to use college to figure that out. So kudos to you, because I'll tell you this, like the one thing you don't get more of is time. And the easiest time to make big decisions is when you're young, because you don't have as much at stake, and you can always go back to college. You can take classes online now. So, I mean, good on you. This is awesome. I'm excited for you. You talked about some of the support that some of the local businesses have given you. Is there any couple people in particular that you lean on now or leaned on more in the beginning while this was all starting to transpire?
Yes, 100%. When we moved into our first location, it was the location on Columbia Street. We were there for approximately like 9-10 months. And then we got the news that we kind of had to move out from that first initial 600 square feet room. And it was like day to night. It was a last minute thing. I had some time to find a new spot, but finding a place to lease in Wenatchee can be a little difficult sometimes, especially to fit the needs of what I was looking for with like having space for like a cooler and, little things. And so basically, long story short, we found this spot that was directly on Wenatchee Avenue. In that time, it was getting remodeled. It was getting new floors. It was getting painted. Like it was going to be a whole new place. But it was going to overlap by the time that I had to be out of the location on Columbia Street. So I had to come back home for a little bit, for a few weeks, and I guess work from home again until the new place was open. But during that time, it started off with reaching out to one business, Exala Wellness, which is like a medical spa, IV bar.
Yeah.
And asking if we could take one of our cards and leave our bouquets there, and then just have people having a location where they could go and purchase versus coming to my house and picking up,
Yeah, smart.
And it started off with them, and then several other businesses reached out, and they're like, like if you need a place to bring your flowers, like we're more than happy. These are our hours. Like we'd love to help you out in the meantime that you get your new spot. So it was really nice. It was helpful. It was to the point where like it lasted for like a whole entire month. But at week 4, we had a whole like list of just businesses that had offered their help to us. And I think that was it's like a welcoming hug from, like the community and businesses that want to support you and see you grow.
And it's amazing because you're actually, I don't know if you realize this, you're building your brand through another brand that's already a brand like out there, right? So like people are going to a place they trust or need to go to, and then all of a sudden they see your brand there. And because they have the trust of that brand, I think it builds that trust with them. Just as someone who's been around for a while, there's layers on top of all that stuff. So that's awesome. You've talked about like kind of living your dream. What does it now mean? I mean, do you realize now you're kind of the main character in your story, in your dream? And what does that mean to you?
I kind of forget that I am the main character sometimes until I realize, okay, like I started, like when I walk through the store and I realize that it all kind of started as a joke and now we're here and like it's like my life and my day-to-day life. Like I wake up and I get to go to the shop and work with flowers and make people happy. It just wasn't the dream that I originally had planned. I think my original dream was being in college, coming back home and working so I could go back to college and all this stuff, the typical stuff.
Right.
But I definitely think that I'm like living the dream that I didn't know was my dream.
Right. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, I'll tell you this, like life will take you in all sorts of different directions no matter what. Like, I didn't think I'd be living in Wenatchee and doing a podcast, but here I am. So it's pretty awesome. Okay. So you were talking about, like, in an article I read about, a plan B of yours would be like real estate, or maybe something around there. But are you to the point now where this dream is rolling along well enough to you where, like, no, this is it now, this is the plan. But is there anything that excites you about the future, about the next plan you want to do? Or maybe a 5-year goal that you have?
Yes, definitely. I've always been into coffee and I love coffee and I think I consider myself a coffee addict, but I would definitely love to have like a flower shop and a coffee shop combined in one. The location that we're in right now is a building divided in half. So if our neighbors next door happen to move out or whatever the case is, I think it would be a nice experience and opportunity to take on a coffee shop next door and have the flower shop on the other end. So I think that is the goal that I'm aiming for. I would definitely still like to pursue real estate, but I think that would be like a step down the road when I feel like the business doesn't need as much as me
Yeah.
as it does right now.
I've done real estate. I can tell you it's pretty much a 24/7 job. I mean, unless you get into like a niche and you're helping just clients, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
I'll give you that warning because I've done real estate. So
I think that's definitely something that I wouldn't want to happen is like have all my attention be like, let's say in real estate and then kind of like forget that I have a flower shop. But that is something that I would want to do down the road. And I think definitely opening up maybe 1 or 2 more locations in like a touristy place, whether it be like Chelan or Leavenworth. I think if we reach out to different audience that are visiting, I think that would be great in expanding and letting my story inspire others out there.
that's awesome. Well, we'll have to do a follow-up with you here in a year or so and see where you're at because your story's amazing. I can't wait to see what you're doing. How important has your family been with supporting you through this process to your success? Or is there any customers that you have you felt like have supported you to your success right now?
Oh yes, so many, and it just feels so nice when I get to see them. Some of them will go visit me weekly. I'll see some monthly or whatever the case is, or like special occasions. But I think just creating that like second family experience or feeling with them is amazing. And I have a long list of customers that I feel the genuine support of, and that feel like family to me. But as far as my family, they've been so supportive. My dad, my mom. It wasn't until a year ago actually, that my dad like finally realized that flowers had potential. And it was on Mother's Day last year where since we do 2 Mother's Day, we do Mexican's Mother's Day and then American's Mother's Day. And the first day was Mexican Mother's Day on May 10th. Again, we opened at 8 a.m. We had long line of people waiting, and we had a camera where I was like checking people out, and we put it in like fast speed and saw all the people lined up and like how everything was quickly wiped out. This last year we beat the record and we're sold out in 15 minutes, and we had over like 200 arrangements made, and they all just kind of flew out in 15 minutes. And he was standing right by the door, and towards the end he's like, okay, you know what? I take that back. I think people do like flowers, and this does have potential.
Yeah, 200 bouquets out in 15 minutes. That's pretty crazy. So does your dad buy your mom flowers now?
He does, yes, here and there. And I have to kind of like be like, hey, you want to buy these for mom? And then he will, but I have to give him a little gentle reminder.
That's awesome. Way to support dad. So has anything changed in the way you do your bouquets now, or is it still like a pretty labor intensive process? Like, have you learned any tips or tricks along the way that make it faster, or what's the process like?
Oh, yes, definitely. And I feel like I'm going to keep learning as time keeps going by. When I first started off, it was just kind of like rose bouquets. And now I kind of hate roses because I worked with them for so long. But I learned that I have to create a recipe to make a bouquet and make sure that everything that I'm putting in the bouquet isn't exceeding or isn't more, I'm not putting more than what I'm charging for the arrangement. So I am now at a point where, like, if you show me a stem of something, I'll be like, okay, that is $1.65, and this is this and this. So creating the recipe, matching up with the numbers, knowing how many fillers I need, how many focal flowers, greens, and all that. And I can have a cart of like 12 bouquets ready in like 20-25 minutes. So I've gotten a lot faster than when I first started.
That's awesome. I mean, that's crazy. Like now, like in your head, I imagine at first you probably put together some amazing bouquets and
Yeah.
like, oh, that'd be $20. And you're like, oh crap, that cost me 45.
Yeah, that happened a few times.
Well, okay. So now, Cindy, we're going to get into our signature part of this show where we just ask some questions and some reflection here. The first one, so we do we inspire, we invest, and we empower. And then I got a couple fun ones. So under inspire, what's one piece of advice you'd give to another young person thinking about starting a business during or right after high school?
I think if you're like thinking about it and you're kind of hesitant, my biggest advice would just be just do it. I think the worst thing that could happen is, I don't really know what the worst thing there could be a lot of things that can go bad, but you are going to learn something, whether it be if you really like it, you maybe discover that you hate running a business and something you never want to do. But I think you're always going to learn something out of going into it. And it can be a good, it can be a bad thing, but you're going to always have that,
Right. And the only thing I'd add on to that is the way you started is like, start small, don't try to go rent a business space right away. Start small and work out of the garage or wherever you can and do that. Amazing quote I've heard in my lifetime is, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you just put your head down, stop thinking and go and do it. So that's awesome. On the invest side, what's one skill you're working on as a young entrepreneur?
I think is learning to set boundaries and knowing when to say no and when to say yes. I'm a people pleaser, so I always want people to be super happy and give them all they want, even if I'm not happy. And that's put me into some really hard spots in owning a business in difficult situations. So I think learning to set boundaries, knowing what to say yes, knowing what to say no. And I think boundaries.
I think that's a lifelong thing. I'm kind of a people pleaser too. I'm less so now that I've gotten older, but it's a hard thing to do, like learning boundaries, and especially when you're trying to get your business going. So as we get to empower here, what do you think your superpower is when it comes to business or creativity?
I think it's that I create these like little random things that just end up working out in my favor. Like I said, this was like a joke and it ended up working out in my favor down the road and stuff. But I think I do really well with marketing, doing little videos. I have some friends from college that are coming back into town, and they came back for like winter break and stuff. So I'll bribe them and be like, you can take one thing from the shop if you help me and film this funny little video that we'll post, and we'll get people engaged. We'll get people to come and, just kind of get us out there and reach different audiences. So I think social media and knowing who to pick, who not to pick,
right,
and kind of building,
So are you doing all that? Are you doing all the social media yourself, all the marketing? Like, are you still doing all that by yourself?
Yeah, I think it would be really hard to trust someone else with it. I like things done a really specific way. And I think I'd spend more time like fixing up and cleaning up than just doing it myself. So yeah.
I'd give you some advice. Just as you grow, though, that's, you're going to have to let go of some stuff, and that'll help you grow. But I mean, good on you you're learning everything. So I think it's good to learn everything also. Then you can bring on somebody and kind of give them your vision and have them bring it to life. Okay, here's a fun question. I don't know if you saw this one, and hopefully you can come up with something here. If your flower shop was a reality TV show, what would it be called?
That That was hard, and I like thought about it and thought about it. I think it definitely have to have the name Bloom. And if you know me and you know our store, I love pink, and I used to hate pink when I was little. So I'd like say like blooming in pink, and I think the pink would kind of like connect back to me, and bloom would be the flower part of it. So
Nice.
blooming in pink.
I love it. I love it. Last question here. Do you have a favorite local spot to relax or find inspiration?
Yes, Zebra. I don't know how to pronounce the second part of the thing, but it's like a cafe, and now they're a bar too. But it's a little cute cafe, and they have some really good pastries,
Yeah,
and some lunch options.
they're pretty new, right? Been around about a year. Zebra,
Yeah.
is it the Zebra Bazaar or Bazaar? Or
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen it on
And
the
the
app.
place is super
Yeah,
cozy, super nice.
that's awesome. Well, Cindy, the crowd loving it. They've loved you. Thank you for being on today. You know, your story is a reminder that age just isn't a limit. Your courage, creativity, and community support can launch dreams basically at any stage. So how would somebody check out the Bloom Flowery? And we can put some links in the show notes as well, but give us where somebody could find you on social or your website, or the best way to get a hold of you.
You can locate us if you want to go to our physical store, 14 South Wenatchee Ave. We're located on Wenatchee Avenue. It's a pink building, so it's really hard to miss. And if you want to follow us on social media, we're under at the Bloom Flowery, and that's it. The Bloom Flowery. If you search us up on Google, will be www.bloomflowery.com, and that's our website.
Awesome. I want to thank you, Cindy, again for taking the time here to join us today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure for this episode of Networked, be sure to watch, subscribe, and catch every episode as it drops on Thursdays. If you prefer to listen on the go, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite show. We'll see you next time for Real Talk to inspire, invest, and empower right here in NCW. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.